Good evening and welcome to Chesapeake Public Schools Family Empowerment Webinar presented by the Office of Family and Community Engagement. I am Laura Lerf, one of the FACE specialists. Our office, which is under the Department of Engagement, seeks to create meaningful partnerships in order to inspire, engage, and empower families, educators, and community agencies to support the initiatives of Chesapeake Public Schools. We are typically available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and can be reached by our main phone line at 757-482-5923 or FACE, F-A-C-E, at cpschools.com. We're excited to offer our families a course catalog entitled Peak Parent University that outlines all of our events for the school year. You can also catch up on pre-recorded webinars, access a wealth of educational resources, and make community connections to promote your family's well-being. Please visit cpschools.com and search Peak Parent University. We thank you for joining us tonight for our webinar about interpreting MAP scores. We are excited to have joining us tonight Keandra Russell, Supervisor of Assessment from the Department of Assessment and Accountability, and Dr. Melissa Oliver, Director of Assessment and Accountability. Welcome, ladies.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for
Greetings and welcome to this webinar, Interpreting MAP Scores. I am Keandra Russell, Supervisor of Assessment for Chesapeake Public Schools, and I'm thrilled to be your host for this session. Partnering to help all kids learn is the motto of the Northwest Evaluation Association, or NWEA. NWEA is a mission-driven, student-centric organization that was established in 1977. Two superintendents in the Pacific Northwest sought to gain reliable and valid data on all students, not just via test scores once or twice a year. NWEA's founding members were interested in scores, but were keenly aware that growth and progress are of monumental importance to a learner too. The founders worked ardently to develop the MAP Growth Program. Over the past 40 years, NWEA's assessments have reached millions of students throughout the United States and nearly 150 countries across the globe. MAP Growth truly illuminates student achievement and academic growth over time, regardless of starting point. Ultimately, MAP Growth helps identify student needs to tailor instruction. MAP Growth are not tests for determining mastery of skills, but are all about instructional readiness, unlike end-of-course tests. It is important to note that MAP Growth are aligned to the Virginia Standards of Learning versus Common Core or other general curriculum. In addition, the MAP Growth Program is one component in a multifaceted, balanced assessment system. Our purpose this evening is to strengthen families' understanding of the MAP Growth Program. This session will equip Chesapeake Public Schools families with tools necessary to interpret score reports and strengthen awareness of how the data are used to enhance learning opportunities. Ultimately, this webinar will support the ongoing collaboration between teachers, students, and families, with students on the elementary and secondary levels too. MAP, an acronym for the measures of academic progress, are computer adaptive tests, and they yield such useful information about students' learning. The tests acknowledge both student achievement in a moment and growth over time to give each and every child the unique opportunities. They are designed to provide objective feedback to educators regarding student learning. Now we shall move from MAP Growth's evolution and talk about some of the key terms related to MAP that will assist you with data analysis. First, normative data, essential to the MAP Growth Program, identify typical or average scores for each grade level, subject, and season to give context for student performance. For the most recent norms, NWEA amassed results from over 10 million students to establish top, middle, and bottom scores. The norms allow for comparisons to the typical student growth as identified in the norm study. Students are compared with students in the same grade and with the same amount of instructional weeks. Several questions are answered when comparisons are made between students' scores. For example, score comparisons indicate how well a student is growing in a particular subject area. A student may excel in reading, but does not experience similar success in math, which informs instructional decision making. The next term is fundamental to all things MAP, RIT score. A ROS unit, or RIT score, is an overall score that is rendered when a student finishes a MAP growth test. It clarifies the student's performance level on a vertical scale, ranging from roughly 100 to 300. This vertical scale is like a yardstick that measures physical growth. Students land on one of the scale's many parts at different times, as when students grow physically and it's measured. The student may hit different heights at points in time, but are measured with the same consistent scale. Whereas the scale is not grade level dependent and aligns with normative data, a third grader and a seventh grader may receive the same score, and its meaning is applicable to both students. The RIT score shows where the student is ready to learn, or zone of proximal development. Educators refer to this as the ZPD. The ZPD identifies the student's performance level by pinpointing where a student would just as likely answer incorrectly as correctly, the point between knowing and not knowing answers. Think of a RIT score as a student's overall scale score on the test. Next, let's talk about how achievement and growth differ. Achievement is where the students are performing in real time. The achievement percentile reveals how students are faring generally in the subject tested, and this informs us whether a student is performing at, above, or below average. For MAP, the average or typical achievement is 50%. Growth is the change in RIT score between tests administered in different testing terms, such as fall to winter. The last term brings us full circle as it connects to normative data. Percentiles represent the percentage of students in the NWEA National Norm Sample for grade and subject that a given student score or class of students' average scores equaled or surpassed. Growth percentiles compare the most recent two scores, and the higher the percentage, the larger the growth. A student can be working to meet grade level standards and have a low achievement percentile, which falls below the 50th percentile. However, the same child can make considerable progress and have a high growth percentile that is above the average achievement level, or the 50th percentile. I'd like to talk a bit more about percentiles. Percentile colors are shown in this key. As an example, a student at the 75th percentile would be in the green or high average range, and a child that lands in the 25th percentile would be in the low average or orange band. A RIT score is used to establish MAP percentiles. Percentiles build an understanding of where a child is learning in relation to peers across the nation. Consider a group of 100 students and the example of a child with an achievement score in the 75th percentile. The 75th percentile is a comparison to other students across the nation and indicates that out of those 100 students, the child fared better than 74% of his peers. For MAP, this child's percentile ranking would be deemed high average, which is in the green percentile band. The next segment showcases the frequently asked questions regarding the MAP growth. What is a projected RIT score? MAP growth assigns projected scores which are based upon overall RIT score from a testing term. The projection is calculated carefully and even considers what growth is typical or average for matching students in NWEA's norm study. NWEA compares matching peers to conduct a fair comparison. Matching peers must be in the same grade and have an identical number of instructional weeks between tests. If a comparison did not examine matching peers, it would produce skewed projections. Students are grouped according to starting achievement percentile because students that land initially in the high achievement range are not expected to grow as much as students with low achievement scores. Thus, projected scores are feasible, reasonable, and attainable. Projected RIT scores are suggestions, and many teachers do make adjustments accordingly. How often are MAP growth administered? MAP growth are interim assessments that are administered 2 or 3 times a year, depending on the subject and grade level. How long are MAP growth? The majority of students are able to complete the tests in about 1 hour or less. The assessments are roughly 40 questions in length, and time constraints are not an issue as the tests are not timed. Students are able to complete the assessments at their own pace, and teachers serve as proctors to monitor student activity. Test proctors address any technical difficulties and answer questions for the duration of the tests. What subjects are available for students? First and second grade students complete the MAP in math during 3 academic or test terms of the year: fall, winter, and spring. Students in grades 3 through 8 are assessed in the area of reading and are tested in the fall and again in the winter. Are MAP growth standardized or high stakes? Unlike the vast majority of tests, each student will answer half of the questions presented correctly, and the other items will be incorrect. This does allow the system to pinpoint a child's unique ZPD, or the learning sweet spot. Think of the ZPD as the Goldilocks fit for learning. The content provided to the student will challenge the student perfectly. The material will not be incredibly difficult, such that the learning process results in frustration. Content and related activities are not too easy either, but are tailored to the child with a Goldilocks fit. Students are active participants in these productive struggles. Some viewers may recall the term computer adaptive tests used to describe certain standards of learning, or SOL tests. Indeed, there are several SOL exams that are classified as computer adaptive tests. However, many SOL tests are designed to gauge mastery of subject materials. SOL tests are not created to establish the student's learning sweet spot, and if a student misses nearly half of the questions, their performance would be lackluster. What information will I receive from my child's school? The district generates a MAP growth family report that includes RIT scores from a student's most recent tests. Families can review the data and have conversations with students about achievement and growth. Remember, the RIT scores range from 100 to 300. How do schools and teachers use MAP growth scores? MAP are not graded at any time, and results do not impact course placement. The detailed insights teachers receive improve instructional planning to reach each child in a class with varying abilities with interesting, impactful learning experiences. The insights and data are objective, and the longitudinal data collected over time capture critical points over the student's academic career and learning journey. Teachers analyze the findings and collaborate with students to help children set goals. It is imperative that the child discusses the achievement and growth scores in order to determine the amount of growth necessary to meet projected RIT scores for future test terms. Teachers and students participate in whole, small, or group or individual discussions to establish a full understanding of the scores and the connection between in-class learning and test outcomes. How can I help my child prepare for MAP growth? There are no perfect scores on MAP growth. Teachers are not privy to test questions prior to the actual test administration. There are sample test questions that families may review to better understand how the questions are formatted. As mentioned previously, every student, regardless of ability or aptitude, will end up with 50% of items answered incorrectly and 50% of items answered correctly. Teachers prepare students for test sessions and allow students to interact with the system on their Chromebooks. MAP growth include types of test items students have encountered, such as multiple choice or drag and drop. Students become familiar with the basics needed to navigate through the platform and are encouraged to do their best. Families can best prepare their children for MAP growth by ensuring that students get an adequate amount of rest the night before the test. In addition, students benefit from a healthy and nutritious breakfast in the morning on the day the test is administered. Families should engage in discussions about MAP results. When students are involved in the assessment process, they are required to practice metacognition and think about their own learning. Conversations about MAP scores provide children with opportunities to express their individual understanding of skills and knowledge studied in school. The report gathers detailed information that the families need in order to support both achievement and growth. The document featured here shows that different testing terms are available, and it highlights both achievement and growth comparisons. As a reminder, low achievement or low growth is a score below the 50th percentile. High achievement or high growth is a score that exceeds the 50th percentile. Achievement and growth details identify how well a student is achieving and growing. Also, the report lists measures related to reading and math. Lexile and quantile measures are listed to provide additional details related to readability and mathematical difficulty necessary to create a productive struggle. The Lexile estimation is based upon the RIT score, and a Lexile assists teachers, students, and families as they select appropriate books. The quantile framework helps teachers determine the difficulty level of mathematical skills and concepts. Quantile scores offer relevant data to enhance differentiation and personalized instruction. Student resources are available online. At this time, we will address any questions. Contact information for the Department of Assessment and Accountability is available, and parents can email assessment@cpschools.com or connect by phone at 757-436-3316.
And at this time, we invite you to place any questions that you may have in the Q&A. We will take any final questions that you may have in the Q&A. And we thank Keandra so much for her wealth of information. And she had her information on the screen if you have any additional questions about tonight's webinar. We'll put that information back up there for you. So Keandra, we do have a question. So should my child's, oops, sorry about that. Should my child's achievement percentile go up from one test to the other?
It is definitely our hope that achievement percentiles increase, but that's going to be a case-by-case basis, as a student that is at the 98th achievement percentile doesn't have very far to grow. But if there's room to grow, we do love seeing growth in the achievement percentile as well as growth percentile.
All right, and another question, the Lexile and quantile, should parents be understanding those numbers? Can you clarify that, or is that something that is just used for the teachers?
The Lexile levels you may be familiar with and have seen them at Barnes and Noble, perhaps. They rank they increase in difficulty as the numbers go up, and the quantile does indicate the difficulty of the mathematical concepts and skills. It's not, the Lexile and quantiles are not something that we expect families to be well versed with and so familiar with that you're able to identify if a 150 on a Lexile is appropriate for a first grader or not. Those are questions that your teachers, classroom teachers, are able to help you answer.
Thank you. And then can you clarify, is this something that is sent home by paper, the results?
The results are uploaded to ParentView in the documents section after testing concludes.
Okay, and so I believe you said that the first testing window has already happened, so it sounds like parents are able to go into ParentView now to see those first results. Is that right?
Absolutely.
All right, and we remind parents that if you need any help getting into your ParentView, to go ahead and contact your child's school, and they will be able to help you with that. All right, and I think we have answered all of our questions, so thank you so much, Keandra, for your wealth of information.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And again, if you have any questions about tonight's webinar or need additional information or resources, please feel free to contact us at FACE, F-A-C-E, at cpschools.com. And this concludes our Interpreting MAP Scores webinar. Again, I'd like to thank our panelists for sharing information with us this evening. Please remember that this webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded to the Chesapeake Public Schools YouTube page along with our Peak Parent University within the next several days. We thank you so much for joining us this evening. And remember, families and communities work better together. Have a good evening, everyone.